to episode 7. Boy, did we have a crazy week last week. And if you think there's nothing special about today, January 12th, you are wrong. On this day, I'm going to play a little game called On This Day. I'm going to play it with my 2 Lit crew. On this day, I'm going to list a lot of things and y'all tell me what sticks out to you, okay? So I'll say them all, and then at the end, I'm going to ask you guys what stuck out to you. So on this day in 1964, the NFL champs Cleveland Rams were given permission to move to LA. On this day in 1952, the University of Tennessee admitted its first Black student. On this day in 1958, the NCAA added the 2-point conversion to football scoring. On this day in 1971, All in the Family premiered on CBS, featuring the first toilet flush on TV history. On this day in 1990, civil rights activist Reverend Al Sharpton was stabbed in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. On this day in 1995, the murder trial against O.J. Simpson began in LA. On this day in 2017, President Barack Obama, shouts to my president, had a surprise presentation and awarded his vice president at the time, Joe Biden, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. This was not just a regular. I'm letting you guys know. So this is just on this day, January 12th. In 2019, Missy Elliott became the first female rapper inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. On this day, and last but not least, on this day in 2020, the 7th episode of Remotely Renee aired. That's us. Yeah. Okay, my 2 Lit crew. Let's get it. So let me introduce my 2 Lit crew. We got me, Madre, Snook, I got my sister Cole in the building, and I got my VP, which is my manager, Paul. Cole, what stuck out to you on this lovely day of January 12th?
A lot happening. It was a lot happening. A lot of stuff going on. I don't even know where to begin, but this is actually wonderful. I didn't see that on this day I would be on a segment and be on a show with my sister consistently every week. So I can say on this day, the surprise is we still here.
We still here, baby.
Here.
I like it, Cole. Snook, what you got for on this day? What stood out to you? I know you heard that All in the Family when I know that's one of your shows. I know that.
Yes, and I think you're messing with me because I've been living through all of those on this day. But
oh my gosh.
The one that stuck out to me was All in the Family because I was a big Archie Bunker fan.
I know it.
And the Jeffersons was a spinoff from the All in the Family, and every week we were, front and center at the TV watching those episodes. And also the O.J. Simpson one stuck out to me because I remember as a youth whenever the incident happened with his wife and the gentleman. It shut down all the TV channels, and all we watched was that white blazer go on and on and on. And you came and asked me, just who is that O.J. Simpson? Because you couldn't watch your cartoons, you couldn't watch your shows. And so
no Degrassi, no nothing.
No Degrassi.
No Degrassi, no nothing.
Hilarious. Oh, I love it, Snook. Okay, so Snook said All in the Family and OJ on this day. Paulino, what's up? What stuck out to you on this day?
Why did you know? Like, why did you know that this day had a lot of things? Or how did you know that? Or why did you look all that up for this day? Or
I really don't know. This is crazy. So that's actually a funny question. So as I prepared the show notes like a week in advance. And so I sit in the bed and think like, what do I want to ask my 2 Lit crew to open the show? And what do I want to do? And I'm like, so we've had a theme, like, cause we opened up basically during holiday season. So my birthday hit, Christmas hit, New Year's hit. And so then we had elections come in January. So we almost had like a lot going on. And I'm like, so this was the first episode where there wasn't really like a crazy landmarker going on. And so in the way my mind works, I'm like, I bet this day was a lit day in history and I don't know. And so I started to just research it, and I found out this every day is pretty much a lot going on, and January 12th is no different. So yeah, that's how I got to it.
I heard stabbing and Reverend Jack, or who was it?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Stabbing, and then I heard something about flushing a toilet on live TV.
Yeah, so All in the Family was like that in your face show, and basically like a toilet had never been flushed on TV before. So All in the Family, they premiered on that day, which is this day, and then they flushed the toilet, which is unheard of on TV. So and
It's
Reverend
so
Al
funny that they even went to that. Like, I wonder whose idea that was.
like they were I think they wanted to push the envelope as far as they could push it, it looked like. Yeah, and then Reverend Al Sharpton, 1990, he was stabbed in Brooklyn, like crazy. That's on this day. So
I also like the one with President Barack Obama when he gave our new incoming president that Medal of Freedom. And I can remember how moving it was to President-elect Biden, and it just really was a heartwarming.
Got you in the feels.
Got all the feels. So we got all the feels. That's how we coming on episode 7. Okay. I like that on this day. I might keep it up. I feel like that was fun. If you guys like it, I love it. But now let's just move on to, there's a lot going on. So I started this episode with there's a lot going on this day. There was a lot going on in business too. Paul's going to let you know about it. What's up for Remotely Scoreboard? Or no, it's called Remote Scoreboard. Remote Scoreboard, Paul.
Okay, so obviously we all know Florida been crazy, but now it seems like they're coming to their senses, and the Dolphins Stadium is opening up for COVID testing and the vaccine treatment.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. So wait, so the Dolphins Stadium, kind of like how people did the polls where you could come vote, they're opening up their arena that they won't be using for COVID testing and vaccinations?
They won't be using.
They're not in the playoffs.
Yeah, thanks. That's my team.
They didn't make it to the playoffs, so they're not using it at all.
It's free. It's open and available.
Yes, and it's probably some blowback from where the news showed all of those elderly people camping outside all night just to try to get in line to get a COVID vaccine shot too.
Wow.
Yeah, so their goal is to distribute a minimum of 1,000 vaccines per day to 65 and older.
Oh, that would be amazing because
I need to move there.
I know, Snooker Booker, you're up next, my Snooker Booker. You got to be up next. We got to get my Snooker Booker the vaccine. Free Snooker Booker and Diddy.
I saw the doctor you had on just got her second shot today.
Oh, yeah. I forget it's a double dose treatment. But speaking of that, I'm glad you even did that. Y'all didn't even know, but I think Snook is covering vaccinations later on in the show. So I like
Maybe
this.
we did. We just talk now. So
are y'all like best?
We're not on the group chat anymore. We side text.
Wow, girlfriends. Okay.
Oh, it's my man, you know.
Snook's crazy. What else you got for us, Paul?
So I know you like esports. So China is constructing an esports facility to become the esports capital of the world. $900 million construction, and it's going to sit 6,000 people, 5.4 million square feet.
So wait, it's going to be basically an arena for esports, is what it sounded like.
Yeah.
What? See, I'm gonna tell you what. China be showing off.
They just said we just gonna do it bigger than everybody and just
exactly go. Like anytime China can show that we do it big over here, they make us like. First of all, everything's made in China. We know that. They know that. But this is like esports is. You know they're gonna kill it. Like that's how it's like. You already know they're gonna kill it. I want to see. It's probably gonna be like the Nationals are gonna be there now, always or something. Man, like China's commerce, they always figure out a way to be like advanced and first. So what do y'all think?
Couple steps ahead. Always a couple steps ahead.
Fact.
Yeah, it says there's 720 million gamers in China.
Wow.
I can believe it, but you know, because I don't know if this is the same thing, but I just thought about what is that anime stuff? Like, I don't know why that just popped in my mind when you said that, but I feel like they have a strong following for that anime, and I think is anime. I feel like this is all interrelated in some way. Is there? I don't know.
Well, you know, isn't that Jack Ma guy over there who's been missing for 2 months now? Is that the same thing? Is that the same thing, Paul?
I think that is. Isn't that the guy who they said he was he's a big esports anime, all that. He's been missing in action. They're actually looking for him, but he might be a part of this whole, thing as far as getting it set up and where they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. So,
what in the Among Us is going on? What is this? Like, I feel like this is like a case for the Twitter detectives or something. I don't know. Wow.
Well, Snook's on Twitter now, so.
Oh my goodness. I'm glad let's pause real quick. Snookabuka, she just hopped up on Twitter at Snook Montgomery and shut it down. I have people texting me about my Snookabuka. I have men DMing me, telling me to tell Snook hi. She's like a living legend now. What is going on? Snook's, what is it called? Game is unbelievable.
Well, hats off to Paul for introducing me and getting me set up and giving me a quick tutorial on what to do. I still feel like a neophyte, though.
I mean, VP, you outdid yourself. Like, I mean, Snook came in with the on point. Just, I was like, oh.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did. She did. She came in.
I saw Cole. Look, okay, I'm gonna let you know right now. Remotely Renee is on Twitter. I saw Cole liking tweets, and then I said, wait a minute, did she just respond to me? I had to check and make sure it was really my sister. Because sometimes y'all be doing those things where y'all like put the @ name that's almost the @ name, and there's like one thing different. It was really my sister. I said, let me find out. But I told Paul this, and I don't even want to say it out loud because I know people like attention. I was like, oh, Paul, I really enjoyed when my family was not on social media because I get a lot of death threats. I get a lot of like people cussing me out, calling me the N-word. I get that like all the time, every day. It's so easy when somebody says that to me because I'm like, I don't really care. Like, I don't care what people say to me. Like, so that doesn't bother me none. But it's like, oh no, now my Snook and my sister are on social media and I don't want to have to clap back.
Don't worry. I don't care.
They just better realize they need to bring it.
Come correct or don't come at all. Come correct or don't come at all. Don't come for me unless I send for you. But my feelings ain't gonna be hurt. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. So I told Paul this last night. I was venting to VP like, oh goodness. And then he told me what his mom, he just added his mom 2 years ago on Facebook or something. So.
I don't want to interact with my family on social media.
Say what?
Yeah, I don't want to interact with my family on social media.
Oh, I don't want the people to bother my family. Like they bother me all day and I'm like, okay, thank you. But me, no, I don't want to see that. But what's next, Paul? That was a whole tangent. What's next? Is there anything left?
Yeah, so the last one, LeBron's tweet about buying the Atlanta Dream and several stars came out. Mookie Betts of the Dodgers, the World Series champ, and Kevin Hart and Carmelo now. A lot of other ones, but those are the bigger names.
Carmelo entered the chat, so
Carmelo entered the chat.
Man, LeBron James tweet. So we're celebrating today, and on this day, in January 12th, I'm celebrating a clean sweep. I'm talking the presidential election, Joe Biden. I'm talking one Senate race, Raphael Warnock. The second Senate race, John Ossoff. It's a celebration. So in celebration fashion, LeBron James hops on Twitter. That's what we do. When you're happy, you go tweet about it. He actually tweeted that, yo, somebody needs to buy the Atlanta Dream. I need to put together an ownership group, something of that nature. That's kind of what the tweet said. So, you know me, I said, yo, Bron, and I mean this, I'm ready when you are. Then I found out that there's other people that I was already like, all right, bet. Kevin Hart, Carmelo Anthony, who was it?
Mookie Betts.
Mookie. So, what is it?
Mookie.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Mookie Betts. I'm just saying. Listen, Atlanta Dream, I'm just saying you can do better. Like, tell me, have you heard that lately? I mean, I'm just saying. So, I mean, because this is what I talked about this on 11 Alive. I talked about this on BBC, CNN. Imagine what name recognition, what sponsorship, what would happen if people started to invest in women's sports, the WNBA? So this is not even just about the Atlanta Dream. Everybody's always fighting over ownership when it comes to the NFL, the NBA, all these other leagues. Shouts to the FCF league. So everybody's always fighting over those type of ownerships. Imagine what would happen if all these celebrities started to buy in on WNBA teams. LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Hart, our ownership, and Renee Montgomery, our ownership of the Atlanta Dream. And we're going against a Phoenix Mercury team who they got, who's over there? Chris Paul. Who else is over there? Devin Booker. Imagine if that type of dynamic. So you're not just fans of the team, but these are owners going head to head too. And it's not, it's not about the owners, but I'm talking about imagine the money that would come with that. Imagine the sponsorship, things that we need. Imagine the viewership. Our viewership is up, but imagine what would happen if people of that caliber invested in women's sports. So just so people understand where I'm coming from, that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, because you imagine how many people would bring to an Atlanta Dreams game if they knew that coming in the door, they might see LeBron James. They might be able to see Kevin Hart. You would pack the stands because these are like untouchable people that they probably can't see in their everyday. But if they can go to an Atlanta game, and the Atlanta games, they'll start, that means the money will start coming in. People will pay to go in there just to be in there because it's going to bring celebrities. It's going to bring the money.
Exactly. Snook, you got any thoughts on that? Oh, Snooker Booker, what'd you tweet? I'm dead.
Oh, no, that wasn't me. But at any rate,
she's talking about you tweeted back to LeBron.
Didn't you tweet back to LeBron?
I told him, wouldn't hurt him, to pick up the queen there, but since he called me the queen, so I just think that anything they do, bringing the big athletes is great, male athletes, but they have to add a woman because 2021 is the year of the woman, and women seem to bring special something to when administration to the planning and all of that. So I just think to be safe, always include a woman.
I'm gonna just always say this. You got to tweet it out, Snook. You got to tweet out, you're the woman.
I like that. This is the year of the woman.
Is that a real song?
This is the year of the lover. Come on, let's make a baby. Let's do something crazy. Let's reach out and love one another.
We can leave that to Serena Grace.
Mom said I'm way past that.
Bruh. Okay, I'm dead. But no, Snook is right, though. Like, I think we're to the point now where we understand that everything needs a woman's touch. We even understood that in government now, having a woman as VP. The future is female is what we talked about with More Than a Vote, and I couldn't agree more. That's all you have, Paulino? That was a long scoreboard. I like it. I like how we're talking today. Okay, so
5 minutes before too.
Yes, I like it. Okay, so next up we have Happening IRL, and so I think it was even just last episode I talked about Kelsey Trainer. Snooker Booker, what is she called for Twitter? What is she of Twitter?
She is the Kevin Bacon of Twitter.
Ooh, okay, so next up we have the Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon. What is his name?
Of Twitter.
Kevin Bacon.
Okay, the Kevin Bacon of Twitter. But honestly, a lot of people don't know this. Like, she types really smart, but she actually really is. She's actually an entertainment lawyer who dabbles in sports entertainment lawyer stuff. So she knows what she's talking about. And the reason I brought her on is because there's a lot of stuff happening with sports and COVID, Hollywood and COVID. What is a force majeure? You probably have heard it a lot now because of COVID, but MLS, there's a lot going on. So I asked a professional to help us out. Check it out.
Kelsey Trainer. I am an entertainment, media, television, film attorney who dabbles in sports and sports law on the side. I write about it. I podcast about it. I spew off some stuff on the internet about it as well. And so I work for a media company, and everything, the law, entertainment, sports, that's kind of my niche, and that's what I stick to. Force majeure is often referred to as something called like an act of God. So it's usually a war, a strike, a pandemic, something that is just not necessarily would be foreseen when you're going back and forth and negotiating a contract, but that can really mess up the ability of the contract to actually be performed by both sides. So it usually frees each side from liability or obligation under that clause. And again, it's something that is not necessarily foreseen, again, war, strike, pandemic, but that obviously has the effect and the impact of really messing up the ability for the contract to be performed. So you just had at the end of December 2020, you had MLS basically say they want to enforce this force majeure clause. We have to like rewind. We have to go back to earlier this year, 11 months ago. The players and Major League Soccer negotiated a new collective bargaining agreement. It gave you everything that you would want in a new CBA, larger salary, bigger budget, everything like that. Everything was set with that, except for the players didn't ratify it. It's just a formality. But again, a CBA doesn't go into effect until it's ratified by the players. It wasn't something that they thought needed to be done right away. Again, COVID hits March. Okay. So the Major League Soccer, they don't have a contract. It's not necessarily ratified. So they go back to the bargaining table. And in June, they come to an agreement. And in this agreement, there is a force majeure clause. It was a big contentious kind of sticking point back and forth, but ultimately, it was put in there. And then you go back to December this year, where the Commissioner Don Garber comes out and says they lost $1 billion almost in revenue, and that therefore they want to invoke that force majeure clause. So it just brings us right back around to essentially where we were at this time last year, which is if they don't come to an agreement on the CBA by January 28th, it's terminated. And there's no contract between Major League Soccer and the players, which means work stoppage. And as a professional athlete, I know that that's not fun. No season, because there's no contract between the two sides to perform their obligations. There's nothing saying, here's what we as Major League Soccer will do, we'll pay, here's the benefits and everything they receive. And then there's nothing on the players' end as well. And so again, that's where we were this time last year. And so it's very hard and interesting for the players to kind of swallow this pill. This will be the third time they're negotiating a CBA within a year. And it's also really tough to swallow the timing that it's been invoked, right? Major League Soccer obviously has known that this pandemic has been happening since March. So then now why December? Have you not had any time to prepare? Have you not done anything to kind of adjust like other sports leagues have had to do? And so it's a really contentious issue, and the players are really irked. It's really hard because when you look at these professional sports leagues and players and athletes such as yourself going in and playing a sport, knowing the risks of COVID, you have people on your side. You have a players association and a long drawn out process to negotiate for health benefits, for different things while you're playing to make sure that you feel safe. So even though it's not ideal, you still go into playing knowing that you bargain for the risks that you're about to take. So, if you were to contract the disease, again, horrible. It's not good. It's not great. But at the very least, legally speaking, you went into that having had somebody representing you, somebody arguing on your behalf and advocating on your behalf. College athletes do not have that. There is nobody advocating on behalf of the college athlete, at least that has the effect of putting things in place so that, if and when they do get this heart condition as a direct result of COVID, there's anything to protect them. You see the player in Florida, right? I mean, it's very interesting how silent people are about what happened to him, whether or not it's COVID related, because, he doesn't have health insurance through the university. And it's really hard. It's a hard thing to understand how these college athletes are so unprotected health wise. And I actually don't think it's that hard to understand, but it's hard to understand how nothing is put in place to actually protect them from these things. It really depends. At the end of the day, I'm just going to say that the almighty dollar seems to always win. You had something out in LA where they were going to postpone it, but I think there's too much money at stake. And I'm saying that as somebody who thinks that they should be stopping productions. New York is continuing to produce shows. SVU, Blue Bloods, all these shows are, still in production. And, they also do have decent COVID, kind of protocols, and people are really adhering to them. But Hollywood is a multi-billion trillion dollar business, and it's also a lot of people's jobs. It's not an easy answer, but at the end of the day, I think the almighty dollar wins. As somebody who has worked on a Hollywood set and fully understands how the power structure and how intimidating that is, for him to yell and scream like that at somebody on the crew is terrifying, and I don't think it's appropriate. I think everything that he said was correct, and I think there are absolutely, I mean, to me, if Tom Cruise comes up to me, gets real close, kind of whispers near my face, "Don't you ever do that again. You know, you're costing people money, families, everything like that." To me, that's more intimidating and effective, right? And also not career ending and career damaging than, you know, what he did, which at the end of the day, is traumatizing. It's really traumatizing. Again, I don't know what the people were doing that they weren't following protocols, but you know, they should be following them. They should be fired if they're not following them. But the actual yelling and screaming within the power structure that is a Hollywood set is just not appropriate at all. I'm Kelsey Trainer, and I'm rocking with Remotely Renee.
Kelsey Trainer, man, happy belated birthday. Man, like this, you guys didn't even follow her on Twitter. I'll just say this, follow her on Twitter. I think it's K Trainer, something like that. You'll find her. It's the
_7.
Okay.
All right, okay. So follow Kelsey.
It's K-Train _11, I believe.
K-Train_11. Shouts to my Snooker Booker. She's in these Twitter streets, dog. Okay, like Snooker Booker is out here. But happy belated birthday, Kelsey Trainer. Thank you for stopping by. I'm gonna have her call in. Like anytime anything like lawyery happens where we're like, ooh, what's gonna happen with this? I think I'm gonna have to phone a friend. Kelsey, be my friend. Moving on, and I hate to just hop in, hop out, but we're doing it today because we got some stuff to talk about later, okay? So I'm about to toss two now so this guy, I consider him like, he's like my brother now, and we just kind of became closer when we realized how much alike we are. You know, we both went to UConn, we both were heavy in the social justice game, but he's been doing it for a long time. A lot of people may or may not know his story, but he's been locked up and he's come from a lot. He's like came from a background where what they say, you shouldn't have made it out. He made it out. Caron Butler is now the assistant coach for the Miami Heat. And his nickname is Tough Juice. And if there's any other way to describe Miami, it would be Tough Juice. They got that. So check out my chat. I go one-on-one with my brother, Caron Butler. Okay, so I'm here with two-time NBA All-Star, NBA champion, author, entrepreneur, philanthropist, media personality. I mean, I literally could keep going on, but I'm excited clearly to welcome my brother, Caron Butler, to Remotely Renee. Caron, thank you for coming on the pod.
Hey, appreciate you for having me on, Queen. I'm proud of you too. All your activism work, everything that you've been doing, I've been watching. It's just amazing what you've been able to accomplish.
Thank you. And so I should say the same to you. I'm coming back at you on congratulations on your new role, the assistant coach of the Miami Heat. And what do you think? I mean, a lot of people, this is a big deal. So I want to make sure people understand this is a big deal. What do you think that transition is going to look like from NBA TV host to NBA coach?
Well, one thing, obviously you're not going to be in front of the camera no more. I'm pretty much the wallpaper, the backdrop, and I'm totally fine with that. Something that I've been doing for years, my entire life, mentoring people, ushering them down the pathway to be a better version of themselves. And I find great joy in that, removing myself out of the equation as much as possible and highlighting their strengths and polishing their weaknesses. And that's something that I've just always been, willing to do, wanting to do. And the opportunity finally presented itself. And I mean, it was only two organizations that I would possibly do this job with. And the one, Miami Heat, it reached out and it just made perfect sense, perfect timing.
Okay, what was the second one? I'm just curious.
I mean, when you look at the coaching trees in the association, the San Antonio Spurs, they usually get it right. When you talk about the Spurs disciples and those who come from the pop tree, they live in that space. They're not just rental situations. They're not just going to be there for a year or two. They have long careers and huge impacts.
Right. Okay. So I love that. I don't know. It's not a coincidence. You said you enjoy it, but Miami Heat is known for their grit, their toughness, and your nickname just so happens to be Tough Juice. So what are you like most excited about as far as just getting there with guys that already are known to have that type of dog in them?
Well, you know, when people always talk about the culture, I'm a fabric of the culture. They drafted me back in 2002. Pat Riley, the godfather of the game, Eric Spoelstra, he was like my trainer and video guy, and just, you know, someone that was just trying to just pour into me and teach me the fundamentals of the game, teaching me how to play in the system. And I'm able to do those things now. I'm excited about all those things. When you talk about, you know, people that you don't have to like force the culture on them because they're already a part of it. They already come off a tremendous success of making it to the finals, even though, you know, some people like it's favorable because it was in the bubble and all these different things or whatever. But I know one thing, we're always going to be in position to compete. I know that guys are going to leave it all out on the floor night in and night out. And I love just the personnel that we have on this team already. You know, some with tremendous bright spots, and the only weaknesses is the youth. So I'm inspired and really excited to be working with some of these young guys.
So, you know, you working with these young guys, they should gobble up every single thing you have to say because you had a 14-year pro career. But before that, you were arrested 15 times before the age of 15. So can you just talk about, I mean, you're a walking testimony. Is what we call, I'm from the church. So you are a walking testimony. Can you just talk about how you come from a 1-year juvenile detention sentence to where you are today? Like, how does that happen?
I think I'm glad you brought up, you know, the gospel. That's really what it is. It's generations of prayer. My grandparents was, you know, strong, faith-driven people. My mom, my aunts, my uncles, and to be in this position now, it's just, it seems surreal sometimes when you reflect and think about it. But that's what it is. You know, I was covered by prayer. I assisted that prayer with hard work. And, you know, that's what it's all about. I think that people sometimes get distorted, or the information get distorted when you think that you don't have to work hard along with the prayer. You know, like I'm gonna leave it in God's hands. Like that isn't enough. You have to.
Without work.
Yeah, you gotta meet God halfway. You know, in order for those blessings to come real. And you know, I try to do that.
I love that. So since the pandemic started, I feel like we talk almost every other week, whether it's on a panel, an interview, we talk to the student athletes at UConn. So that kind of brings me to UConn. What was it like going from your background to a school like UConn?
You know what? It was dope. First of all, the University of UConn just accepted me with open arms, right? Calhoun sold me on the family aspect. You know, once you become part of this family, you're Husky for life, Husky Nation, bleed blue, the whole line. And we know that to be true. You know, that's why you my sister. But at the same time, I was always just trying to figure out like what my acceptance really would be, because I came from a troubled background. I had some flaws, some chinks to the armor. And, you know, initially I felt like that community just accepted me for exactly who I was. You know, they wasn't judgmental or anything. That was the first time that I went to an environment, even in prep school, it was just like, all right, we got to watch him because this or that or whatever happened in the past. But UConn just accepted me for exactly who I was. And they just knew that I was just trying to be better. And they provided me all the resources that I needed to be better. And, you know, once again, to Coach Calhoun's credit, everyone that came through that front door was, you know, trying to buy you or sell you on something. Calhoun was not trying to buy or sell me. He just told me that I would join a family, it would be for life. And that was the greatest sales pitch ever, because if you can be bought, you can be sold. Calhoun left our living room. My grandmother looked at me, looked at my mom and said, "He going to Connecticut." And that was
Grandma said it.
Yeah, Big Mama said it. She was like, "Boy, I would tell you exactly what she said. She said, "Your ass going to Connecticut," and that's what it was, and that was it.
Exactly where you went.
Yes, that simple as that. Your ass going to Connecticut, and that was it.
I love it. So while at Connecticut, you got the honors of being Big East Player of the Year. This is off topic, but I lived in stores for 4 years, as you know. What did you guys do in stores for fun? Like, what was the fun aspect in stores for you guys?
You know what? Honestly, I tell people this all the time. It was a business trip for me. It really was. Fun was really knocked out the equation. You know, I didn't do the whole, going out thing. That wasn't ever my thing. Weekends. Yeah, I mean, we had the little fest where entertainer would come down, or we had Husky Blues, or things like that. But I was just dialed in on trying to make my visit there as short as possible, because I knew I wanted to go to the NBA. And I was like, the time that I'm taking to really enjoy, have fun, that could be time that I can be storing and putting into the bank, so I can withdraw a little bit more when it's time to, withdraw those deposits on the basketball court. And that's how I looked at it. I did have fun though, just with the camaraderie of building relationships with my teammates, Talib Brown, who's assistant coach now, Kevin Freeman, assistant coach now, so many other the alumni, Khalid and Rip and Ray and, the list goes on. We just had a lot of guys that we built. Yeah, it was the relationships, and like I said, our huge fraternity is not just men, it's women as well. Obviously, y'all, what y'all have done there, man, you can't tell the history of UConn basketball without talking about what deposits that y'all put in, so the relationships that, I have on the women's side as well, my sisters and brothers forever, man, it's just amazing.
I love that. And so, okay, so just moving on from, you get drafted, so you were focused, locked in the whole time at UConn. You get drafted. I always like to ask, what was that period actually between school ends and then when you get drafted? Because people don't know, that's not just for on the men's side. On the women's side, that's a one-day difference for me. But on the men's side, what is that like? Because you were a top pick. You were a first rounder, the 10th pick overall, so you were highly sought after. What is that period like?
No, it was a whirlwind, because I think sometime in May, I think the first week of May or something like that, or the end of April, I decided that I was going to declare for the draft. And I do the press conference at Stores. I cried like a baby because, I just didn't want to leave. I love Connecticut. I really did. And then all of a sudden, it was just like a whirlwind. I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm training every day, 2 times a day. I'm going to Chicago for workouts. All the teams that had the top 12, 13 picks, I eventually worked out for.
And so how does that work? I'm curious, because as we know, the draft is coming up. Well, the draft will have happened by the time you guys see this, but I'm just curious, what is that like? You don't have any money. The teams are flying you out. Is it first class? Are you now getting wined and dined, as they call it? But I mean, you've already declared, so there's nothing illegal about that. So I'm just saying that so people can understand. But what is that like, all of a sudden going from being a college student to you're on flights, you're in LA, you're going all over the place? What's that like?
I'm gonna tell you, because when you go to UConn, everything is first class. So I was already used and accustomed to flying first class, or sometimes on our private charter.
You guys flew private or no?
Yeah, we flew private. So we had our own charter. But when I went to Los Angeles, and that was just the home base for me as a rookie to just train and have a trainer, what I did love about the process is that, everything was first class. I'm talking about first class trips to Chicago, or whoever had the top 12 picks then, Memphis, Cleveland, a couple other, Washington, a couple other teams out there. I was flying in, staying at the hotels. It was a lot of thinking, because, you're getting interviewed, and people are questioning your past. People are seeing how you think as a human being.
And were you by yourself during this?
Yeah, the whole time. You solo. Now, I think it's because of COVID and social distancing. I want people to truly understand this. It's different because everything is on Zoom. You know, I just watched a whole workout of a kid, and it was crazy. I don't want to give his name out, but it was crazy because I'm watching him and I'm just like, yo, I'm just on a Zoom. They set a phone up and you're watching the workout.
Like you're there at that point.
Yeah, and you know, he's a top 15, 20 pick, and you know we got the 20th pick in this year's draft, so it should be interesting. But just watching that whole process to where we was at, it was like in the middle of our workout at any given time, somebody would jump out there and just play one-on-one with us while we're dead tired after we done.
See what see what kind of tough juice you got in the tank is what they were testing.
I'm telling you, like, let's see what this is really about. I'll never forget. I went to Houston and Catino Mobley and Steve Francis was there, and Steve was like, "Yo," like telling Coach Lucas, like, "Yo, this our guy right here. This the one. Like, this the one." And we got the working out, and I think I was doing like Jared Jeffrey, some other guys, and I just, man, I had a damn good workout.
Okay.
For the life of me, I thought I was going number one. I was like, I think I'm going number one because it was the best workout I had. I was just like, I'm out here. They had the number one pick. They ended up taking Yao Ming. I mean, duh, no brainer. Can't teach that. But I was like, the workout I just had here, I'll be shocked if I'm not taking number one. And that was my best workout of the whole circuit. Like all my other workouts was like, I was super athletic
too. I mean, I'm an athlete, so if your best workout was for the number one pick, like, okay, I see you. I see you.
No, hey sis, sometimes your jumper not falling, or for some reason everything was clicking that day. Jump shot, handles tight, defense was on point. I mean, I was splitting the double. Everything I could do right. I told my agent after the workout, I said, man, I don't want to work out for nobody else. I think they're going to pick me. He was like, no, we still got to work out.
I'm dead. I feel you though. It's just like, all right, my job's here is done. Just wait till that number one pick. I love that. So speaking of, since we're on this tip, because I always like to I'm trying to get behind the scene. So what was your most expensive first purchase? Like, what's the first thing you bought that was like really expensive because you actually had money now? And not saying you did before, but I'm just saying you got it like that now.
Yo, I would tell you, it was two things. You go just die screaming. So on draft day, we're in New York. I woke up and I'm watching not V100, BET. BET had all the shows back there, Big Tigger, The Basement, everything.
Oh yeah. So
I'm
part. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm looking at BET and everybody got a Jacob watch on. So I'm literally like a couple blocks away from where we're staying from Jacobs. We're in New York. So I'm like, I can't get drafted I can't walk across no stage without no Jacob on. So I told my lawyer, I was like, look.
You can't do it. It's just, you just can't do it.
I said, I can't walk across stage. That's crazy if I don't have a diamond watch on. That's just, I can't see myself doing it. And so he took me over there. We purchased a watch. I think I spent, $30,000 or something like that for it. And that was my first like large purchase that I did. And then immediately, like 48 hours later, after I got slotted in 10th pick, I knew that I was, first generational riches. Hurry up and grab my mom a house after that. And then, immediately. I was like, all right.
Flex right there. Look, I love it. You love to see it. Like, I love
Oh, yeah, that was done deal. I was like, I got to get my mom a house, and I'll figure out the rest later.
I love it. So you got a Jacobs watch, 30 and he dropped a house. Like, okay. Karan. Thank you so much for joining me here on Remotely Renee.
No problem, sis.
I'm telling you what, like just hearing him talk, and you guys got to hear the full interview because he's unbelievable. He's going to be great in the locker room. He's going to be great wherever he does. He went from NBA TV host to NBA assistant coach, and I wish him nothing but the best. Now we're going to move on. Snooka Booka. We are going to move on to remote roots. And that's where at Snook Montgomery gives us all of her knowledge on whatever she wants to talk about. I just so happen to know that it's a big topic right now. Vaccines are behind. I know that we're supposed to be doing 10,000 a day in some places. And clearly we're not there. Stacey Abrams, we need your help. But there's a lot going on. And Snook, talk about vaccinations. Let Snook, the floor is yours. Do your thing. Remote roses.
Okay, so I thought I would talk about the people having a animosity toward taking vaccines, especially the minority race, and a lot of people don't understand what their apprehension is about, taking a vaccine. Me, I can't wait. I look at my news feed in West Virginia every day, 2 and 3 times a day, just to see if someone didn't show up and they need somebody to come. I'm dressed 8 o'clock in the morning so I can just go out the door and get my vaccine, because
Snook
I
Booka
see
is ready.
I see it as a way of opening up the world back to me, because otherwise I have to just kind of stay in my same little place and huddle down until it's safe. But at any rate, I wanted to bring you 3 stories about reasons why minorities are apprehensive. And the first one I'm going to start with is the oldest one, and that's with Dr. J. Marion Sims. He was known as the father of gynecology. Well, what he was doing was he was experimenting on enslaved Black women without their consent. And a lot of times he did not even use anesthesia. And so he was in Alabama, and he went from Alabama to New York and opened up the first women's clinic in New York. And so anyway, he was the person who's responsible for a lot of the instruments that they use in gynecology today. He actually did the first gallbladder surgery, and he also performed the first artificial insemination. But at any rate, he did this without paying or getting the consent of the women that he was experimenting on. So in Alabama, they had a picture at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And in this picture, it depicted him with other white doctors standing over a Black female patient who was very claddily clothed. And so anyway, they made them take the picture down. So let me see who it was. It was the Washington Post revealed in 2006 that the woman in the picture had been used over 30 times for experimentation. She had received over 30 surgeries from this Dr. J. Marion Sims. So in 2017, amid demands to remove him from, the wall.
2017?
2017. When we had the push to remove the Confederate statues and all of that, well, they wanted his removed because it was in New York, and it had the big sign up there with him, the father of gynecology, standing over a Black woman. And so this Black Youth Project 100, it was a group of activists who were 18 to 35, actually have been campaigning and got it removed. So that's the first reason.
First of all, that's a hot mess. 4 years ago, and we're just tiptoeing into 2021. So it's really 3 years ago. A hot mess.
So people know about the history, so they know about this happening to Black women without their consent. And so the second one is the one that's probably the most famous, and that's the Black Tuskegee Institute Syphilis Project, where the U.S. Department of Health Service said they were going to work with the Tuskegee Institute to develop a program to help Black men with syphilis. They called it bad blood back then. And so at any rate,
what?
Bad blood. When you had syphilis, the term was bad blood. And so they wanted to work with Black men to kind of study syphilis, in other words. So they had 600 men. They used 399 they gave syphilis to, and 201 they just gave them a placebo or whatever. And so at any rate, they never told the men what they were really treating them for. They never treated them for the illness itself. They just kept using them and using them and using them. So the study was supposed to last 6 months. It lasted 40 years.
Yeah, because they want to see how long.
What?
Yeah, because they wanted to see they wanted to see the fallout of how if they took it back to their families, if they had children, like
Oh my
how it would
gosh.
affected the entire family. Because that's what they wanted to know. They wanted to say, okay, we can treat it, but what would happen if we never treated it? Like, how does that going? What would happen?
How to progress?
Yes. How would it
Wow.
progress? Yes.
Okay, so in
Yep.
1972, there's a public outcry about it. So they found the men that were never even given adequate treatment, even after they started using penicillin in 1947 to treat the disease. They never treated any of those men in that particular study. And
That's
so,
a hot mess.
so they thought that was unethically justified, ethically unjustified, in other words. And so there was a class action suit in 1973. And in 1974, they awarded $10 million to the men who were still those men who were still living, and to their widows, wives, and children. So
Wow.
that's how that.
So that's another reason. That's another reason.
And that's the main reasons. You'll hear that on the news all the time. They always bring up that Tuskegee experiment that they did on Black men and never really, clued them to what they were really doing with them. And actually, I worked with a lady whose father was one of those men at Washington State University. So I used to hear a lot about it, just in, chatter at the office about it. So at any rate.
Wow. So is there one more story?
There's one more, and that's Henrietta.
Wait, there's more. I knew
Let's hear it. I knew she was gonna be there. I was waiting for you to say it, Ma. Gotta go with her.
Henrietta Lacks. You know about Henrietta?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
I don't.
She changed modern medicine. Her cancer cells were the most immortalized human cell line in history, and she has one of the most famous medical lines in medical research. And she was a young Black woman, mother, who in 1951 died. She had 5 children. She had cervical cancer. And so at any rate, this doctor at Johns Hopkins, that's up in your territory, Nikki.
Yes, ma'am. Down the street.
Dr. George Guy, he was soliciting cells from people for research. And so somehow he got her cells, and he was amazed because her cells continued to live and to grow. And so he used it in all kinds of experiments there. And her cells were later described as 1 in 1 billion. Her cells continue to grow decade after decade. They're still being used today. Yeah, they're called HeLa cells. Yep. And so at any rate, half of the Nobel Peace Prizes in the last 60 years have been based on research that used these HeLa cells. Yep. So millions and millions of dollars have been made and sent around the world, but her family's never received a dime for that. As a matter of fact, her daughter, whose name is Dorothy, didn't even realize until Oprah Winfrey contacted her that her mother was even this person whose HeLa cells were being used. And so there's a book called The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Smoke.
Is there a movie about this though?
Yes, Oprah did a movie, a Harpo film about it.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw the movie of it. This is a crazy story. So Snookabuka, shouts to you, giving you some roses on your remote roots segment, because we're gonna educate y'all whether you like it or not. But the reason that we did that was because when you see everything happening with COVID, and you see even these athletes, and as you saw when I talked to Kelsey Trainer, Ohio State did a study that said 30% of student athletes are going to have already have a heart condition directly affected to COVID-19. It's kind of scary to think that, like, as an athlete, you might have, athletes don't have a union. We have the WNBPA, there's the NFLPA, the NBA PA, MLBPA. The PA stands for Players Association, which basically means a union. Cole talked about this last week, where the union is strong, okay? Like, the union protects people, and athletes don't really have that. And so a lot of these student athletes, didn't know what was going on with COVID, and now actually have a heart disease for life.
And so long haulers. They're long haulers. I mean, you get a couple of weeks, but these organs in your body are still affected from having the disease. And there's no, it's so much emphasis now being put on, getting the vaccine so you can not be, contagious and passing it on. But, they haven't even had a chance to study the effects of after you've had it and what can we do to make your life better, after you've had this disease.
Exactly. So Snook, that's the perfect segue to why Black people don't trust America. Okay. Yep. Like Black people have a distrust in the system, a distrust in the government, a distrust in the medical system. Those are some reasons why. My Snook story are reasons why. And honestly, when we talk about any other business, there's 100,000 different stories of why Black people, Black and brown community has a distrust of our government, of our system, of a lot of things that just, as we know, weren't built for us. So for today's Remote Roses, I'm switching it up. And today I'm giving roses. Let me throw them too, because I'm not going to sell this short. So for today's remote roses goes out to the peaceful protesters of the Black Lives Matter movement. All of the people that were marching and walking in spring and in the summer, peacefully, not doing nothing, but stating why they're upset. This also goes out to all the people that marched, and not only marched, but went out to vote. And then if you happened to be in Georgia, we had to go out and do it again. We had to go out and do it again 2 times. So I'm giving roses to that whole group of people, everybody doing all of that. You deserve your roses. And now, instead of them guessing who I'm giving roses to, we're going to talk. We're going to have a conversation about what transpired last week, because that was a hot mess. I'll get the party started. What happened on January 6th? And I want people to understand that this is not an accident. What happened on January 6th was planned. There's plenty of threads where you can go to see the forums. There's plenty of threads that talk about planning for January 6th. You don't get that many people coordinated in DC by accident. It's like the Million Man March. This was literally the opposite of that, basically. So January 6th has been planned. The first tweet that I saw was on December 21st, talking about January 6th. Of course, the national security of the defense gives his resignation. You're fired. You should have been fired. And of course, all these people in the 11th hour are resigning and trying to separate themselves from the treason and the Trumpism and all of that. Of course, they're doing that. Why? Because you've been complicit for 4 years now, but at the 11th hour, you only had 2 more weeks on the job. You was gone anyway. I'm just throwing that out there. You was already gone, but 2 weeks out of the job, you want to just put in your resignation. I can't take anymore. This is too much. This is too much. And another thing is, I'm here in Georgia. I can remember when those 2 college students were in their cars, were pulled outside of the cars. I know everybody saw that story. The 2 college students were pulled outside of the cars, traumatized. What? I saw people breaking in windows. Some dude was sitting at Nancy Pelosi's desk like that was his couch. He was watching a game. They left a threatening note. We will not back down. I mean, and I saw, shouts to Monique Curry. I saw a tweet from Monique Curry that really was eye-opening. She said she was born and raised in Washington, D.C. So when she was in elementary school, they would go and they would take field trips to all the amazing buildings downtown in their area. They would go to different places. One of the places that she went while in elementary school, not threatening at all, just throwing that out there. These elementary students, when they would go to Capitol Hill, she said they would never be able to get that close, not even close enough to storm the doors. I'm talking students, elementary students on a field trip couldn't even get that close. So for the people that think that, oh, wow, this could have just happened if they just stormed it and breached it. No, there's inside works, there's other things. And we have to, I know this is a very strong word and people don't want to hear it. That was terrorism. That's what you call domestic terrorism. And I know that the first thing people think of is 9/11 and how dramatic that was. That's terrorism too. This is domestic terrorism. People from our own area, homegrown terrorists. So I don't want any comparison to the roses of people that I just gave roses to that were peacefully protesting. People called me a mob leader for throwing a cookout. I did a pop-up block party, threw a cookout for the protesters, and they called me a mob leader, said this is mob mentality. Huh? Like, I'm trying to figure out where. So now all of a sudden I hear that this was a protest. This is not the same thing. Like, these are two separate things that happened. One was a peaceful protest. Shouts to Colin Kaepernick for taking a knee that people tried to say was very unpatriotic. That was a peaceful protest. What happened yesterday? Terrorism. 60 plus police officers were injured. 15 plus are still hospitalized. One is in critical condition. That's terrorism. So I got the party started. Cole, what were your thoughts on what transpired over this past week?
Okay, so I could be here all day. I am very vocal. I am very about equality on both sides. If it's wrong, it's wrong, regardless of who's doing it. I'm one of them people. I call it out. Okay, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Okay, I see. Okay, I'm not one of the people who's going to say you're right or wrong, but I'm with you. You cannot wait until you are ducking under a desk for your life and then turn up and say, you know what now? That was too much. You were under a desk. And the sad part about this is not the first time that something has happened like this. So it was building up to that, because at one point they put him, but the National Guard was there. So they made it like it was this big threat because people were actually at a gate outside of the White House. They had all these National Guard. And when these other peaceful movements were happening, they acted like they were so afraid that this was going to turn into this horrible thing. So they had all this ramped up security. You put 60 officers out there with tens of thousands of people, and then you're like, oh, they were overwhelmed.
And let them get beat up. Like, I watched officers running. It was not a good sight.
They're overwhelmed. Oh, you put 60 people out there? Who does 60 people at the White House? I didn't even think that they would. It just blew my mind, number one, because at that point, I'm thinking Secret Service need to come out of a corner around. Where are they at? They should be popping about the floor. They should, how in the world do you get overwhelmed at the White House? So I am also one of the people who say that was domestic terrorism. I was so excited when I heard the word thugs, when I heard the one terrorists, because no other entity, a group of people they always say, well, this group, oh no, they're not thugs. It's always like these lone wolves. They act like these people are lone wolves. And oh, well, no, they just did that because they're misunderstood. They always want to play up to certain people as not being terrorists, but being just mentally not right or not stable people when other things are being done with other groups of
like
people.
Think school shooting. It's always a reason why somebody shot up a school.
Wolf. And, it's just the narrative that's pushed. And so the narrative that's pushed is that when people are dying in the streets and they're fighting just to say, I want to walk around and not have to be threatened, you're going to make that the same fight as we lost the election. So the whole White House needs to go. So I could be here all day. But again, I think the roses went to who the roses should have gone to. And, this country acts like they've never seen violence, but this country was built on violence. It was built on violence. So you can't be upset when you see violence when it's not the group that you want to have the violence shown. Like it was just really eye-opening. It was actually kind of sad because I did feel sorry for all these people who rah-rah sis boom bod for 4 years and then ducked low and ducked real low on social media and all these platforms. Yep. Oh, I didn't. No, I don't.
Listen, I didn't even know that you're allowed to fist fight a cop. Like, call me crazy, but I saw a lot of fist fighting last week of the cop. I mean, just regular people. They was like squaring up on the cops and fist fighting. I'm like, oh wow. So if you win in a fight at the cops, you don't go to jail. Like I didn't know that, but I found that out last week. Snooka Booka, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thing is thank you for giving peaceful demonstrations the roses, because as you know, I'm kind of old. And so I can go back to 1963 with Martin Luther King. It really was kind of, I would say, maybe one of the fathers in our times of peaceful protesting, and he was beaten in jail. He had the march on Washington, which was 250,000 people, and there was no violence like that. And we go on down through history, and it seems that where from what you're talking about that went on, those individuals didn't get arrested, they didn't get handcuffed or anything, and
they were walked down the steps. I saw a cop taking a selfie, like literally somebody took a selfie with the cop. That was probably his friend, so that shouldn't be alarming. They probably already knew each other, which is scary in itself. And then I saw somebody helping a woman down the steps, like holding her hand.
I'm like, and I think and I'm not going to speculate. She looked like she was pregnant. So
she was definitely pregnant.
She looked like she was
in there anyway. But saga, it's a never-ending thing. It has periods where it's heavy and when it's light. And what I think about is when you see those people and how they were treated. Well, as minorities, you can step out of your front door and do something wrong and get killed by the police. So You're not treated as the same way. It's not the same playing field. And so my thing is that I don't think it's going to ever be, Kamala Harris today, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris today said that, the Lady Justice, she has the blindfold and she has the scales, because justice is supposed to be blind and equal. Well, to me, when she said that, I thought, man, she must have been peeping out from under that mask for most of my life.
Lady Justice ain't been equal, man.
I can't see that blindfold being where she can't see through it because something wrong. Something is wrong there. So that's my thing as a saga. And this is the thing I would like to see before I leave, so my kids and grandkids maybe can have a better view of life than I've had to view from the time I was a child. So I'm hoping the saga ends and at some point in time, there's equality for all. That's all I got to say.
I'm working on it, Snookabuka. We are working on it. Paulina, what are your thoughts with this past crazy week?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was wild. I think you guys probably saw the image, and it's like the guy was in the seat. I forgot which person it was, but then if you see above, there's like a photographer there.
Yeah, so like they had professional. They were prepared. Like they had weird. It said via Getty Images. Huh?
Yeah. So that's also it was like the media in on this too. Like that's weird. And like where were all the cops and like the National Guard and all that thing? But I mean, obviously, like you said, you said it was set up. So I mean, yeah, it's weird.
Basically, yeah. So he's asking the questions that we all are asking. Like I can remember, I live here in Atlanta, so I'm like at ground zero where a lot of stuff was going down. I can remember they sent in the National Guard, everyone, when they thought that people might be upset. My best friend works at the aquarium and she said, hey, we're shutting down today because they think there might be, some type of crowds gathering. Like in Atlanta, when they even thought maybe even something could happen, I mean, they was on us. Like there was like a lot of security, a lot going on.
Baltimore too.
Yeah, Baltimore, DC too.
Heavy.
Like,
yep.
So whenever, and the reason I say this is known, this was planned, like Trump planned it. He spoke at the rally that got everybody fired up. He was the pregame, like, they was drinking and pregaming and he was getting them fired up. And then they went and did exactly what he said to do. But like, where was the police? And I tweeted out, man, shouts to Mayor, man, I wish I could remember her name, but the DC mayor, y'all better not try her no more. Huh?
I think her last name's Murphy.
Okay. That doesn't sound, I don't know, but shouts to the DC mayor because people tried to be, I think they was trying to be funny because some questions is like, what are you really asking me? They asked the DC mayor, she said, I'm setting a 6 o'clock curfew. If you're out past 6 o'clock, like you will be reprimanded. We will clear the streets. We will do that. Right. And she basically was talking her talk like, y'all better get off these streets by 6 p.m. I'm not playing. Do you know the reporter said, well, who's going to get them off the streets? I'm telling you, I should have prefaced with saying that the mayor is a Black woman. So she had her mask. She pulled her mask down and she said, the police? Like, what? Who's going to get the criminals and thugs off the streets?
You know why? Because, like you said, it was a setup.
Orders. not to hurt the people, not to bother them.
They had been
They were
told
given
not to do deadly force, no use of deadly force. So basically they were saying, well, if they can't use deadly force, then what are you going to do? I mean, honestly, if they tell them you can't use deadly force, because how somebody break out the window and see
that's how they started fist fighting. I think that's how fist fight broke out, because if the cops are thinking, man, I got an order from the commander in chief not to use this weapon that I have right here, well then knuckle up. Like, what? Police officers can't fight. I mean, I'm just being real. Like, maybe some of them can, but I think they're trained with weapons, they're trained with batons, and even still, we've seen a lot of police. I don't know. I just saw a lot of uncomfortable scenes. Police officers running, like that blew my mind. When I saw them running, I'm like, what is going on, America? So
just saying from the very beginning, if you've been an organizer for a lot of peaceful protests or demonstrations or whatever, there's a whole lot of hoops you have to jump through to be able to do that. You have to give them an estimate of your crowd size. You have to know what police are going to be available. What's it all about? Because there's actually a form that you have to fill out to do that. So in other words,
it's a permit to get a permit.
So in other words, the individuals for this incident on January the 6th, did they not do any of this?
It probably got cleared by the commander in chief.
Yeah, they just showed up. He's like, oh, don't worry about that form.
Do you know that? Do you understand that the sitting president is the one that spoke at it? So I could assume that there was Secret Service. There was a plan. This was a planned event. The president spoke at the event. Like, so yeah, they planned.
Nobody was there.
Huh?
Nobody was there. They worked there, right?
Unbelievable. Like, I don't know. Listen, that's what I said. There's so many, it's like questions that need answers. There's so many questions that need answers. We don't have the answers because we're not the ones that are oppressing people. We know that there's a problem and that y'all need to give us some answers. But again, we've seen this. We know how this story ends. But I'm going to tell you right now, this 2021, I know a lot of people are like, 2020, this is the same as 2020 and 2021. I'm going to tell you, things are different. Like, if you don't believe, that's why, and I usually don't even like to discuss politics and all of that on the show. But we had to, because this is a historical moment that just happened. Like, it may never happen again. If you don't believe that things are going to change after what happened yesterday, I think like a lot of people in our community, we're not surprised. Like, we're really not. Like, like we're disappointed, but we're not surprised in how the police reacted to terrorists. But I think there's a lot of people in the white community and other communities that are actually genuinely surprised at what happened. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I can't believe we let that happen.
Embarrassed.
So
Embarrassed. Yeah.
I think, and not to mention, and I'm just talking about sheer perspective, like mindset of people, but you guys have to realize that's why I don't want it to get lost in the shuffle about this whole tantrum that was thrown. We won. Okay. We didn't just win one thing. We won the presidential election. Shouts to President-elect Joe Biden. We didn't just win the presidential election. There were 2 Senate runoffs.
Yep.
2 of them. In a state that, I mean, what would we call Georgia other than now? This is a battleground state. Now, baby, the South has something to say. But in another Senate race, shouts to a black man, the first one that's going to head out from Georgia, Raphael Warnock. We gave him roses last Tuesday before it was even announced because he deserves it. But hey, let's even think about a Jewish man coming out of Georgia as a senator. Shouts to John Ossoff. We won. I just want people to understand we won. So yes.
And let's just not forget Stacey Abrams in that equation. She did a phenomenal yeoman's job of organizing those people in Georgia. And personally, I feel that she should get something like the chair of the Democratic National Convention so she can put all 50 states together for the vote. And then there won't be any questions about, all of this. If they put Stacey up there, I'm sure she can get the whole United States. Every state in the U.S. have a ground.
Listen.
Has a plan. telling you, it's amazing. Like, some people are born to dream and they're dreamers, and they give their ideas to other people who build them. This woman is a planner.
She about that action.
Builds things. She builds it from the ground up. And that's hard, because some people, it's easy to come in at the top of something and say, oh, you already did all this? I can run with it now. This woman started from the ground, and she was not seen. She was not heard. She was incognito.
She was getting shots up in an empty gym, man. She was like plot, plan, mobilize, organize, all of that. I'm so glad you brought that up, Snookabuka. Georgia, we're blessed because Stacey Abrams is running for governor in 2022. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if I could vote right now, it. Like, if I can do it right now,
Georgia, so I can vote.
Yeah, like, I'm telling you, but the reason we're saying that is because for a long time, our Black and brown community didn't really think the system mattered. You know, a lot of people were like, you know, I got stuff to worry about at home, sis. Like, I can't get into that political stuff, man. You know, like I had real friends tell me that. Paulino knows. I had real people tell me that. So for us to step outside, maybe I'll call it our comfort zone, to go to the polls not once, but twice, we won. And I know that a lot of people thought that we were going to lose. And that's a hard reality when you really think you got something in the bag and then you find out that you're a loser. I get it. We won. And so I'm going to end this show.
Yes.
My 7th episode of Remotely Renee with my 2 lit crew. Shouts to Paul, shouts to Cole, shouts to Snook. I'm going to end this show saying, on this day, I want everybody to remember we won. See you next week.